Hey, we're the Americans. We're hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
What's up, guys? Rob here, Front Row Live Entertainment. I'm hanging here with the Americans, and I'm excited to be talking about this upcoming EP. Before we really dive in and talk about Strays, I want to talk about the most recent single and just that creative process when you get back. The creative process of this song, what really kickstarted that initial writing process? Was it like a type of melody? Was it a lyric that you had in mind? What was that process like for you guys?
Oh, that's a good question. Do you even remember what that's like?
With that one, we went up. Oh, you're not going to hold the mic for me. We usually go away for writing sessions, and we'll all live together for a week, and we cook and just write songs all together. And I think this one kind of came in a little bit with. Sometimes we come in with just like a notion, but this one came in a little bit more with. I think Patrick, you had written sort of the chorus or something like that.
Yeah, or maybe a verse. I know a lot of songs we kind of write inside out. It's like there's like a little thing that we kind of cling to that's interesting, and then you kind of try to build a song around that and hope that thing stays interesting when you do that.
And because of that, the writing periods are really important, because if we'd get together once a week and rehearse, but the little ember that was there would not be strong enough to live a week in between each time, or we'd kind of just get to the same place. So those times together proved really valuable for our writing process.
Yeah, sometimes we just kick it off again. Some songs. There's a song on the EP that's coming out that we've been working on and off for about 8 years. Ooh. Yeah, not 8 years straight, but we've come back to it. We come back to it a bunch of times. The song's called William, and for a while we used to talk about just feeding things to William. We'd be like, some riff would come around, and we're like, I don't know, feed it to William, see if maybe it'll just just throw everything at the song, see if we can make it work.
You guys were writing a letter per day, like every time you guys were in the studio for the last 8 years.
Well, we'd write 10 pages and then go back to just one letter.
And I'm looking at the pages right here on this coffee table. But talking about like writing inside out, that's not a common way of writing, and I feel like that's a difficult way of writing. It takes a long time to kind of like figure it out and get it all together. What really got you guys to write this way, and what is it about this way of writing that really like gravitated towards the band?
I think what it is that instead of like coming up listening to a lot of like modern bands, when we first met, I mean, we like all kinds of music, but when we first met, we were really interested in what they call pre-war music, 20s and 30s, especially like old blues and string band music. And a lot of that music is in some ways fairly simple, and a lot of them don't have like bridges and sometimes not even choruses. And
Straight to the point.
And so sometimes the thing that we liked most about a song didn't have any of those elements. It was just kind of something in it. There was just some little thing, and I think that's how we kind of how that happened. I think that's rather than creating like a song structure. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like Patrick was saying, there might be the best moment of the song might be 2 minutes in, and it might be that like somebody's shouting on the side of the recording studio, and that's the thing that we like the best. So how do you incorporate that into a more contemporary form of music?
Like chasing those moments, so then you get a moment like that every once in a while if you're lucky, and then how do you turn that into something that's actually real, like like your own song,
and also not be sentimental about it. That was an important part for us. Yeah.
It's kind of scary when you mention like the best part of the song could be like 2 minutes in, like that kind of slow burn. I feel like it affects people, like listeners. Is that something that affected you guys in the beginning? Like, were you guys questioning it? Like, maybe that's a bad idea. Maybe like, should we just try it anyways when it's like a slow burn like that?
I definitely think these days it's important to have the song hit sooner rather than later. And I definitely think we pay no attention to that. So,
I mean, me and Jake were just talking about how we always argue about that. Jake always wants the like hooky thing in the beginning of the song.
Yeah.
I always want it later.
If the TikTok doesn't work in the first 5 seconds, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. What can you do?
So dive me into that like writing process though, because like it sounds like it's kind of this EP sounds like it's kind of an evolution with the band sonically as well. Like, did the writing process have an impact in being able to kind of change the tone or the sonics of this record?
I think like kind of back to that idea of being like kind of obsessed with old time music and pre-war music, blues and that kind of thing. everything's been kind of an uphill climb away from that. It's been sort of using the things that, and not just that music, all the other stuff that's influenced us. I think a lot of people making music, it's sort of a each time is sort of growing a little bit farther apart from your influences and a little more into the way that you sound. Yeah. And so I think this is sounds more like us.
What about vocally? How did you guys challenge yourselves this time around? It looks like it's just the three of you producing this. Was there any outside producer that came in and assisted during this process?
No, we produce everything ourselves. Yeah.
So how do you guys challenge yourselves and step out of that comfort zone when you guys are so comfortable being together in the studio?
Comfortable. We're very hard on each other, and there's a lot of expectation that you really bring the best that you can every time we're there. We are humorless
when a tough place. I mean, I think people get an image of the studio like in the old days when you'd have like 6 months to hang around and work on lyrics and things. And there's some acts who still can afford to do that with their labels and everything. But most people these days, that no one has that kind of money. So what we do is we spend that time alone outside of the studio, getting these songs to where they need to be. Once we're in the studio, you're just racing the clock. You're just trying to make sure you get exactly the best take you can, and we record everything live, and then we'll dub some things over, and so it's not like it's not an easygoing time for sure, like Jake said. Yeah.
You mentioned William took about 8 years to kind of finalize this song. I can't believe I just said that. But like vocally, where do you feel like you felt challenged during this EP, Patrick?
I would say kind of the same thing. I used to imitate a lot of the people that I admired, and I didn't really aspire to do anything more than that. I really just wanted so badly to sound like the people that I admired and I looked up to. And somewhere along the way, that started becoming, more something that was my own. Yeah. And so similarly, every new thing we do is like I'm a little more confident on my own feet. Yeah.
Zach, what did you do differently this time around with the guitars?
What did I do differently? Gosh, I don't know. I mean, a lot of these songs we were sort of in the process of writing around the time we were writing a lot of the stuff from our other record, and these songs kind of just had a sort of a different sound to them that kind of worked well. They all sort of fit together well. So yeah, I'm not sure that I was particularly thinking differently for these particular ones. It just kind of. Yeah. Oh, sorry. That's not a very interesting answer.
What about for you, Jake?
You got anything?
Yeah, we for the last record looked a lot more towards our soul influences, and I think just like Patrick was saying, stepping away from the 20s country blues and rural music that we were all listening to. This was sort of a further exploration. Like I think of When You Get Back as having sort of a alt country sound to it a bit more that we've always kind of walked the lines of, we get thrown into Americana a bunch, and I always think that's such a blanket genre, such an umbrella term for so many, both like Sun House and Bruce Springsteen will be played on an Americana station, and those are pretty polar opposites. But yeah, so I think that we step a little bit more into a modern age with this record, which is a small step.
And by modern, we mean like the 1960s.
From 59 to 60.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, sometimes I'll listen to stuff from like the 60s and 70s, and I'm like, whoa, that sounds so like contemporary. That's incredible. They're doing stuff we never dreamed of doing. It's just because we came up on really old stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think these songs just sound sort of less like those kinds of genres, just kind of more like we do, I guess, more than some of the other stuff we've recorded in the past.
Yeah. It's cool that, as you mentioned earlier, that you guys all have so many different influences, but I feel like you guys are still kind of creating your own lane with this music. Something that I feel like is really hard. Like there's so many new artists, so much new music every single day now. So I feel like being able to create your own kind of sound and lane is difficult. What has been that process for you guys to kind of figure out what the Americans sound like?
Well, I think we've never given it that much thought. I mean, yeah, same as songwriting. There are a lot of like really great songwriters. For them, it's like building a table or something. You don't just throw pieces together and hope the table looks
I mean,
good.
some people do.
Some people do, but like, you have a plan.
Yeah.
You put things ahead of time, and we've never really worked like that. We just kind of throw the pieces together and kind of, like I said, work inside out. And so for that reason, we've never really spent. I've definitely never spent too much time thinking about what our sound is or what we attempt to sound like or anything. It's sort of something that happens to us, not something that we do.
And then, with that said, while we don't think about it, it feels a lot like we've really, with a spoon, kind of carved a little bit of a new space. I think of what we do as being very original sounding, even if it's you can point to things and be like, oh, that feels similar to that.
But it's super subtle.
Right.
It's not. Yeah.
Right, but it is there's a lot of invention in our music, and it comes from that's our sound. You know, I don't know another band that really like like I said, you can hear things where we listen to and what we're drawing from, but our version of it is I think undeniably ours.
Yeah.
I would say that's true for a lot of bands. I mean, I think it's really common. What we're doing is only special in our way. What a lot of other bands do is similar. They become obsessed with the things they care most about, and then just by association, they start to sort of sound like those things. Right. And then the key is to somehow launch that into something original. Yeah.
Now going back to this EP, let's remove William for a second and just talk about the other 4 songs. Like what?
Remove William.
after
finally,
so long,
finally put out an album. It's finally finished.
But what would you guys say has been like the biggest challenge with this EP? Whether it's like writing or like the recording process or even vocals or even the instrumentation.
Let me take a look at it here.
There we go. Look at that.
Hey, here it is.
That's a beautiful cover.
Thanks, man. It's it's we got these early. It's coming out soon. Let me see here.
Photo by Sari Thayer.
Let's take a look at the track listing here.
For those at home, when you get back, Land of the Free, William.
So I don't know. Yeah, the question was, how do we?
What would you say was the biggest challenge? Yeah.
Oh boy. I mean, these songs are all so challenging in their own ways because we make it so hard on ourselves. Like I said, we like it's just. I don't mean hard on ourselves like because they need to be excellent. I mean hard on ourselves because just our writing process is difficult and the recording process is tough. So these are
also our arrangements are very exacting, and I feel like our songs really work only when everybody's really well. I mean, they always work, but the brilliance of them shines when it's in pristine condition. Everybody has to be.
I don't know about the brilliance of anything. I don't know, I can't speak to that. But let me see here. Yeah, these let's think. Yeah, I'm trying to think of something interesting to tell you about one of these songs about working on it.
Well,
Land of the Free was interesting because every once in a while that we'll come up with something that's really not. It's not symmetrical, and it's not that straightforward. And that was one of those songs. There's really 2 songs in that song. There's 2 pieces, and I don't know what I was thinking. The first part of it is just like there's not a single chord that's the same twice, and I don't know why I did it that way, but that's how it worked out. When I was listening back to it the other day, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I made anyone learn this. It just doesn't have any like structure, you know. But so that one was definitely a challenge, and we couldn't really. That one, I remember not knowing exactly how to really approach that in the studio, and then we found something that worked, thankfully, and yeah, now we get to release it finally. Yeah.
So coming from the Patrick handing us that song, there's a precedent in old time music of unusual amounts of measures and chord changes not always happening at the same place. So that's something that we play with a lot when we're playing old music. So when he brought one in like that, it was just sort of like, yeah, of course, like.
Yeah, there's almost like a superstition to it because in the old days, especially when people were playing alone or just with one other person, it was really common to have a formless song. One verse wouldn't be like the other, a chord might be different. It's just sort of common to have that inconsistency because it's like the opposite of playing like in a Western swing band where everything has to be like together. So yeah, we always sometimes those are like really special, you know. They're those things, and sometimes we kind of chase that, you know, the inconsistency, yeah, lack of uniformity.
How do you know that it's done when it like there is no like actual direction for it?
That's a great question. Knowing when a song is done, I think you just feel it. And, you know, there's some stuff that you think is done and it's not. There are songs from every record that we did that didn't make it. You know, so when we thought they were done because we recorded them, we were ready for them to be done. But
Glad William wasn't one of them.
me too. You and me both.
Also, a lot of time when we start, you know, even after we record a song and start playing it live, it kind of changes, and so it's still not done. You know, even once it's recorded.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's hard to listen to anything from a record you made a while back because it's been evolving live, and there's things you wish you'd done differently for sure.
Yeah. Well, congratulations with this EP. Strays drops July 21st, and you know, leading up to this release, what can fans look forward to? Like, can we maybe expect some like shows, some maybe tours to kind of promote or support this EP?
Yeah, stay tuned. We're gonna know. We're gonna know more. Probably by the time this interview comes out, we'll have those details. Yeah, we're looking forward to it, man. We really love to play these songs live. So.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. You guys be sure to check out The Americans. Strays EP is out July 21st, and thanks for watching our Front Row Live.